Thank you for participating in India-Japan Skills Connect Reimagining Institutional Framework. Before we proceed, we would like to play two videos, one on the lunar landing of the Chandrayaan-3 on 23rd August and other one on G20. Please pay attention to the screen in the front.
This point are providing confirmation of the safety of the landing site.
As expected, the retargeting is going on, and this is a very good signature for the lander. अभी आप ये देख सकते हैं कि लैंडर की ऊंचाई लगभग 65 मीटर के आसपास बची हुई है.
Currently, only 2 engines are now being fired, and we are nearly at zero velocity, vertical and horizontal. We were hovering, and now we are approaching the moon's surface.
धीरे धीरे लैंडर की वेगमान को कम किया जा रहा है और हम अब लगभग 50 मीटर से भी कम आ चुके हैं.
We can see the Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, who is here to encourage us, and he is critically looking at the visuals.
जी हाँ, आप अपनी स्क्रीन पे देख सकते हैं कि हम लैंडर मॉड्यूल.
People are applauding. Let us all wait to hear from the Secretary Department of Space and Chairman ISRO, Shri S. Somnath.
लैंडर मॉड्यूल पूरी तरह से सेफली और सॉफ्टली चंद्रमा के सतह पे लैंड हो चुका है. ये हम लोगों के लिए बहुत ही गर्व की बात है. हिंदी में एक कहावत है,
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, G20 के प्रेसिडेंट के तौर पर भारत आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत करता है. भारत की G20 प्रेसिडेंसी देश के भीतर और देश के बाहर इंक्लूजन का, सबका साथ का प्रतीक बन गई है. आप सबकी सहमति से मैं अफ्रीकन यूनियन के अध्यक्ष को G20 के स्थायी सदस्य के रूप में अपना स्थान ग्रहण करने के लिए आमंत्रित करता हूं. नई दिल्ली G20 लीडर्स समिट डिक्लेरेशन पर सहमति बनी है. संपूर्ण विश्व में आशा और शांति का संचार हो। 140 करोड़ भारतीयों की इसी मंगल कामना के साथ आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Now, I would like to request His Excellency Mr. Siri George, Ambassador of India to Japan, to give opening remarks.
Good evening, everybody. Additional Secretary Sri Anurag Bhushan, who is also the head of delegation from India, who is visiting today for the joint working group. Ms. Suman, who is part of the delegation and Deputy Secretary Japan in New Delhi, distinguished guests, speakers, good evening. I'm so happy to participate in this session which we are organizing here on the occasion of the India-Japan Joint Working Group on skill, which is a very important element of our relationship. I was watching these two videos which you have seen now. One was on the Chandra and the Moon mission. What is its connected with the skill? It is a fully indigenous program. Every scientist, every engineer, every technician who has worked on it are Indians. This is the quality of skill that India offers to the world today. We can send our own mission to the moon. That's a matter of pride for every Indian, and it is something which we offer to the world. Second, G20 event, which India took over the presidency of G20 in November last year. What we have seen in the last 1 year is more than 220 meetings all across the country in more than 60 cities. It was, first of all, a people's mission. It reached every corner of the country. Second, more importantly, the people who came there, what they witnessed is a transformed India, a new India. Again, it is a changed India which was projected, and they all came back with a kind of satisfaction on that new India, which offers something new to the world. So I'm very happy to participate in this session. We had a very fruitful interaction. I am told that we will take it forward. From the embassy point of view, in the last 7-8 months, we have been organizing regularly meetings, interactions, exchanges, not only in Tokyo, but also in the prefectures. And every time I visited a prefecture, I was very happy to hear that the potential for engaging in the skill sector has been realized at the highest level in Japan. I have in the last 9 months visited more than 32 prefectures. Each place where I went, the governor of the place or the chamber of the commerce, they all mentioned to me about the opportunity in building that skill connect. That is what we plan to take it forward. When you look at the number of Indian technocrats and skilled workers in Japan, the number is very small. As an ambassador who traveled in several countries, I have seen the kind of engagement that can happen in this sector. I was ambassador in the Gulf. I can proudly say that every engineering marvel that was built in the Gulf has a touch of India and Indian skilled workers. This is something which we offer, and I am sure that Japan would be able to benefit from that. So it's a mutually beneficial partnership. We are focusing on Skill India. India today has the largest young population in the world. If we are able to skill them, and if the world is able to use that skill, we will see a new evolving system of mutually beneficial partnership. So I look forward to a useful interactive panel discussion today. I'm sure that we would be able to hear more ideas and views which can help us take this relationship forward. I once again welcome our delegates who have come from India. So with these words, I wish you a very happy good afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, Jeff, for your kind remarks. Next, may I request Mr. Anurag Bhushan, Additional Secretary, EPNW, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, and co-chair of the Joint Working Group on Skill Development, to give a remark.
Thank you. Good evening to all of you. I think it's quite late in the evening, so I won't bore you with the long speech that I have prepared with me. But I'll rather keep it to the point and to the topic of the evening today, which is the reimagining institutional framework. So before I touch on the institutional framework, that is SSW, let me briefly touch upon the framework as it exists in India and how we are reimagining the framework back home. So, as you all know, Indian Immigration Act of 1983, it divides countries into two categories. One is the ECR category, which is immigration clearance required. So people who go to countries which cover under ECR category, and there are currently 21 in numbers, they go through the regulations as prescribed by the government. Uh, and another classification that this act provides is within the immigrants. So immigrants who are studied less 10th and lower, or who follow certain occupations which are designated as vulnerable, then they are covered under the ECR Act. This is broadly the regulation as it exists today. The regulation is administered by an officer called PG and OE, which is again an officer under the Ministry of External Affairs. PGO stands for Protectorate General of Immigrant. So this is the structure, and they administer. They have offices India-wide. Now the problem with 1983, this act has been a very good act for us. It has covered all the flows that have gone to Gulf countries, to countries like Malaysia, and so on and so forth. And by and large, it has served its purpose, that is to ensure welfare and to protect immigrants from vulnerabilities of migration flows. But where it lagged was in creating an institutional framework in countries which are not covered under the ECR regulations. And these countries are, for example, US, Canada, UK, which see huge amount of people going there, but by and large, they are not covered by the regulations that Government of India provides for under the 1983 Act. So in the last couple of years or so, we have set ourselves the task to create the framework outside the ECR and in the ECNR countries. Pradhan Mantri ji has often spoken about Amrit Kal, and he has said that India's time has come. Of course, in many facets, this is true. But in particularly immigration, I really feel that India's time has come. In terms of demography, India is situated very advantageously. We have also, and when you compare the demographics of the partner countries, one of the country, for example, being Japan, you would find a lot of complementarities emerging. Together with this complementarity, which is purely on demographic basis, you also add on to the other initiatives that Government of India has taken. For example, Skill India. So I think hopefully during the panel discussion, we will get to know more about the Skill India initiatives that Government of India has taken. Then there is, of course, the effort to create more IITs, more IIMs, more triple IITs, more ITIs, and so on and so forth, which is added to another added to the educational superstructure. The net result is that going forward, we are going to have more and more educated, more and more skilled people, and these are the people that will probably go forth around the world, or at least they will wish to go forth and explore opportunities that the world offers. Now, our job, of course, is to first expand those opportunities. Number two, make sure that the cost of or economic cost to a migrant is as low as possible. And third, create a vibrant ecosystem which is information rich and which is non-exploitative. So these are our purpose, the goals that we have set out ourselves for. And with this in mind, we have approached our partner countries for seeing how we can create this kind of a framework. Now there are categories of countries, and then how we approach them is very interesting, and I'm sure that it will also interest you. There are countries where we already have immigrants going in Gulf and so on and so forth, which are covered under 83. So with them, we have developed the welfare agreements, which are very strong in terms of welfare provisions, protections, etc. That originating country, that is India, and destination countries, that is countries like the UAE, Qatar, where our ambassador was once served, Saudi Arabia, and so on and so forth. And these are the agreements that are called welfare agreement, labor welfare agreement. Then there are other agreements where, for example, like Japan or Mauritius, where we have to develop a labor mobility agreement to ensure that labor or workers can move from one country to another country through a regulated channel. Uh, so such agreements, for example, we have recently concluded with Mauritius. You must have seen cabinet approving one with Israel, Taiwan, so and so. So gradually, we are trying to cover other countries outside the ECR purview. Japan is one of the prominent countries that we covered, but thankfully, Japan already had two schemes which we took advantage of. One was TITP, and another is SSW. And one reason why I'm here is thanks to SSW. I will come back to that a little later. But first, let me come to the third category of agreements, which are called Comprehensive Mobility and Migration Partnership Agreements. I'm sorry I'm being a little too detailed on this, but these are some of the areas that probably you won't be able to understand. But maybe in course of my remarks, a bit of understanding comes to you, because these are the subjects that are very close to my heart. Uh, so comprehensive migration and mobility partnership agreements are very broad instruments, unlike the labor mobility, which deals only with labor or workers or certain category of occupations that are listed in that agreement. So in comprehensive, we cover all the visa categories that include business, students, professionals, science, academics, and so on and so forth. Secondly, we cover all the categories of occupation. That includes workers, of course, then professionals, then intra-corporate transferees, and so on and so forth. So we cover all the categories under that. And thirdly, we deal with both the people who go from India to those countries, but also we also deal with the mode of how these people will return back to those to India once their contract is completed, or their visa expires, or if they land up illegally, then what we need to do. So there is a protocol that we agree in course of that. And finally, all these agreement, there is a provision for the two countries to sit together regularly, perhaps once a year, but sometimes it can be twice a year, and discuss issues that emanate from those agreements. So these are the three or four kind of agreements that I wish to draw your attention to. And we now have signed with 16 countries, and that shows the success of our approach. We have signed MMPS with France, UK, Germany, Austria, and Australia. And currently, we are working with big countries like Italy, for example. We have signed labor mobility agreements with Mauritius, Japan, and Taiwan, Israel, and Portugal. And currently, we are in the process of negotiating with countries like Korea. So these are as far as these agreements are concerned. And on the SSW, I'll just cover very quickly some of the grounds that we covered today, and I hope that they will interest you. So the SS under the SSW, the TITP and SSW, these are the two programs that MOUs were signed in 2017 and 2021. Unfortunately, the timing was not perfect because immediately after signing, we were hit with COVID. Japan got into a complete lockdown. We also went. So while we say 2017 and we think a lot of time has gone, actually the program was effectively launched last year only. And during this period, we have done quite a good amount of work. Japan, ladies and gentlemen, is not a very easy country for India to emigrate to, as all of you would attest, having gone through the tough process. The language itself is quite tough, but more importantly, historically speaking, Indians, whenever they have wanted to move, they have always wanted to move toward West. But that is, of course, not true ahistorically, because I was JS Southeast Asia, and I know how many Indians had covered the entire Southeast Asia even before they had dreamt of going to Canada or US, and so on and so forth. So, but I think it will take time. This kind of migration flows are typically, in my view, are very difficult to start with. So they start with drips, drabs, and so on, and lot of hard work from people like you and me and all. But once a corridor is established, once the trust established at every stage of this process, then the movement is pretty fast because people move on the basis of self-interest, not because we make beautiful speech or we make a great documentary and people will move. That's not how it will work. Migration is perhaps the most difficult decision that an individual makes. So they do a lot of cost and benefit analysis, and then they look at safety, security, their own family, how the cost of remittances and all. We are very well versed on those cycles now, thankfully, and largely and very important, distance. So people typically look at, my mummy papa ko kuch ho jayega, so how quickly can I come back? Let's say, for example, that plays a very important role in the migration. So our effort during the joint working group is to discuss these issues among others. So one thing we discussed was to adopt a more collaborative, more cooperative, and you know very closely coordinated approach towards um, bringing more information to the putative immigrants, and also to those companies who have vacancies and may be looking up to India. So this is something that we have agreed. I think for migration, the biggest challenge for us is the language. There's no doubt about it. Prime Minister's Skill India program that was initiated since 1914 has done wonders to vocational education and in terms of equipping our young people with technical knowledge. I can tell you this much in my experience, wherever I have gone, the syllabus that we have developed, the testing facilities we have developed, the infrastructure we have developed across the country is now not world class, but close to coming to the world class. And now we are setting up of international skilling centers across India, and they will be truly world class. The first one we have set up in Varanasi, where I think a Japanese Prime Minister also visited along with our Prime Minister, and they were very impressed. So these are, so skill wise there is no issue. Language wise there is a big issue because Japanese language, typically we are focused on students getting language training into higher education in Japan, or skill focused language training is something that we are very new at it. So my colleagues at Ministry of Skill Development and Enterprise and NSDC are working with their Japanese partners to see how we can quickly scale up and ramp up the language thing, because language will take typically 9 months, and so it becomes a chicken and egg situation. If I am a Japanese employer and I give 10 vacancies to CV George, and ambassador says, no, no, it will take 9 months because I will first find those 9 people who are willing to take language training, and then they will go through training. Out of 9, maybe 5 will drop off, saying that no, no, they have got job in Gulf or Canada or UK. So it becomes a chicken and egg. So I'm just telling you very clearly because it's a challenging thing. But once we set up this pipeline of people who are adequately trained in language and skills, then it becomes very easy. So that's why I said the trust-based cycle is the most sustainable way to move on in this direction. So strengthening the information dissemination is again a very important thing. Japan government has made some very impressive initiatives. They've said they are moving into India with trade, with fairs, with delegations, and so on and so forth. Just recently, I think they are also going to hold a fair in Guwahati, uh, which is one of the areas where both prime ministers have agreed to work on. So these are the thing. I think we hope to add to their effort. On Japan side, NSDC has been working very hard to approach employers and all that, and we have been encouraging them to set up an office here. Hopefully, a decision will come soon as well, and this will go a long way in terms of creating a demand aggregation for Indians. Finally, I think it's very important also to use digital tools, not only to generate awareness, but also to match demand with the supply. So we have some experience of working with that. We have multiple websites that work on this. Finally, I think there is some food for thought that I leave for Ambassador CB George and my Japanese friend, which is to also explore beyond SSW and TITP and see are there opportunities at other levels also. So one of the level, for example, can be nursing. Nurse care, wherever I have gone. Recently, I went to Italy, then Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Denmark. So I have found that the medical requirements are highest priority in most of these countries, and in Japan, the situation is no different. But nursing typically is also a difficult thing to do because you have to match qualifications, you have to pass the medical requirement of that country. But this is something that can be very fruitful, and I hope that we can have a discussion on these lines to ensure that nursing is also a topic we can deal with. Finally, recognition of skills and qualification. Again, it takes a lot of effort to come to that level, but I think it's an exercise that we should start, considering the complementarities that two countries enjoy. Finally, I think we are newbies in SSW and TITP. There are countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and all who have done much, who have a long years of experience and a lot of best practices from them, lot of hand-holding guidance from those people in Japan who have worked in these countries will go a long way. And I think the message that I carry from India is that we need to have a very close and coordinated partnership between the both sides and to make sure that SSW is very successful. TITP is already quite successful, but I think it is undergoing some changes, and we'll come to know at the end of this exercise as to what those changes are. But I'm very hopeful, and next time, whenever we meet, I hope to bring a lot of good news to all of you. And finally, my thanks to all of you who have come here despite the late evening. I'm sure that it shows your interest in these issues, migration issues. These are very important, but for us all. But I can tell you, okay, it is the most important issue for a person looking for a job and looking for expanding his work opportunities abroad. And one job that we can deliver to a person abroad, going abroad, changes the entire future of not only that family but of that entire community. And so I think it's something that really drives me forward. And I'm sure the fact that you all are here in this evening, despite your busy schedule, despite your family commitment, shows that you are also equally driven by those passions. And that really gives me a lot of encouragement back going back home. Thank you very much. And my thanks to Ambassador CB for organizing this event and his entire team. Despite short notice, we were able to come together. I'm available for any question and answer that you might have. I'll be very happy to speak to any topic that you wish to throw at me. I'm a very candid person, I must warn you. So if you give candid question, please be prepared for equally candid replies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And please remain on the stage for the group photo. May I request his ambassador and the other panelists to come up to the stage for the group photo, please. Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to request the panelists to take the seat on the stage, and his Excellency Ambassador and the Secretary to have a seat. Now, let us begin the panel discussion on the institutional frameworks. I would like to request each panelist to briefly introduce yourself and the organization you belong to, and share your views on the Indo-Japan Skill Connect and how to strengthen it in 3 minutes, please. So let's start with Mr. Ando, Director of Immigration Service Agency, Ministry of Justice, Government of Japan.
His Excellency Ambassador Steve George and the Director Bushan, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I am honored to be here. My name is Kentaro Ando, Director of Operation and Planning Office for SSW and TIT of Immigration Service Agency. From now, I am speaking to Japanese. SSW とTIT ピースは今までちょっと自己紹介しますと、今まで複数のセクションであった SSW と TTIT に関する業務を集めて、今年の4月にできたセクションです。これまでは同じ SSW と TIT に関する業務であっても、異なるセクションで業務を行っていたこともあり、国内の日本の関係省庁や国外の外国政府との対応で効率的でなかったということもあり、今後のことも見据えまして、SSW と TIT を同じセクションで業務を行った方が良いことから、4月に我が室が発足しました。先ほどブシャン局長からいろいろ今日のジョイントワーキンググループの話をおっしゃってたジョイントワーキンググループも我が部屋で担当しておりまして、ブシャン局長からもいろいろお話あったので、私があまり説明することはほとんどないのかもしれませんけれど、簡単に今の我々の取り組みをご紹介します。大使の方からご説明もありましたけど、インドにおいてキャパシティを我々としては期待しておるんですけど、今までSSW と TIT に関しては、あまり低い水準で受け入れが進んでおります。ただ今日はジョイントワーキンググループ JWDA でも話がありましたけれど、最近インドにおける SSW における試験の合格者、受験者というのは非常に急激に増えております。非常にそれは私どもとしてもいい傾向だと考えております。そういう意味でも、今日ブシャン局長とも、今後この伸びをどんどん推進して方がいいという話で非常に、一致したいでございます。インドから特定技能 SSW で来日するには日本語の試験と技能試験に合格するということがあります。先ほどもご紹介ありましたけど、グルグラムだとかグアハティとかにおいて日本語試験とか特定技能の試験と、あとベンガルールにおいても新しく試験を実施する予定でおります。その試験の分野だとか実施場所についても今後ますます協力して拡大していきたいということで、先ほどブシャン局長とも非常に一致したところでございます。今日は私JWD ジョイントワーキンググループでいろいろな意見交換をしましたので、本日のこれを契機として、ますますインドからの SSW の人間が日本に入ってくることを期待しております。 私、一つご紹介ですけど、先ほど、広報についてありましたけれど、我々日本としても、インドの方と、企業とのマッチングを支援するために、いろんなイベントを実施しております。昨年度のイベントでも、インドからも企業説明会に多数のご参加が、やられたと思いますし、今年度も、来月からイベントを実施しますので、その広報につきましては、当然我々の方もインド大使館もそうですけれど、この在京の日本のインド大使館においても、いろいろとご協力をお願いすると思っております。ちょっと長くなりました。最後に、日本とインドというのは、ホイップ、自由で開かれたインド太平洋や、自由人権といった、基本的な合理的価値を有しております。その意味で、非常にこれから人的交流が期待される中で、さらに日本とインドの両国の関係がさらに良好になることを気にいたしまして、私の話は終わります。Thank you for listening.
Now, may I request Mr. Toyomu Nakano, Director, Employment and Security Bureau, Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare, Government of Japan, to introduce himself.
皆さん、こんにちは。皆さん、こんにちは。厚生労働省職業安定局外国人雇用対策課で経済連携協定受け入れ対策室長をしています。中野と申します。私の職名は経済連携協定 EPA ということになってますけれども、担当としてはもう少し広くて、特定技能に関する国際交渉なども担当しています。私がいる外国人雇用対策課の本来の業務は、国内にいる外国人労働者の雇用管理の適正化ということになっています。最初の求人、それから採用、配置、退職といった一連の事項が問題なく実施されるように、事業所、企業を指導して、外国人労働者を支援するということでございます。伝統的に言いますと、外国人雇用対策課の主なターゲットは日系人でした。1990年に日系三世ブラジル人などの受け入れが始まりました。このピークが2007年ぐらいですけれども、この時は日系ブラジル人だけで日本に30万人が滞在していました。一方で、1993年には技能実習制度が始まっています。これは不法就労、すみません、これは労働者の不足の対策ではないので、職業安定局、ジョブセキュリティの観点からは深く関わっていません。ただたくさんの技能実習生が日本にいると、彼らが労働者であるということは強く認識をしています。でご存知の通り、2019年からは特定技能が開始されました。今年の6月末で17万人以上が日本で働いています。この特定技能外国人、さらに増加すると私どもも見ております。こういった外国人の方々が日本で安心して働いて、その能力を十分発揮できるように環境を整えていきたいと考えています。日本の外国人労働者ですけれども、これは年々増えていまして、最近の統計によりますと182万人が日本で働いています。このうちインド人ですが、2万2000人ということで、1.2% になります。日本の労働市場ではインド人は非常にマイナーな存在です。と言いましても、国別順位を見ますと、上から13番目になります。まず上位グループに入っているんだというふうに思っています。でこの日本で働くインド人の特徴ですけれども、教育水準の高い人のための在留資格を持っている方が非常に多いです。全体でインド人2万2000人ですが、このうち1万5000人ぐらいが高学歴者です。言い換えますと、中程度以下の技能者を対象としているこの技能実習、それから特定技能の方々は少ないという状況です。去年の統計ではこの2つを合わせても500人ぐらいという状況です。で技能実習に関しては中国や東南アジアが主な送り出し国でした。インドは後発の国になります。で特定技能はこの一方で新しい制度ではありますけれど、 技能実習の実績がある国は、やはり日本への送り出しのノウハウをすでに持っている、アドバンテージがございます。そういう意味では、インドから日本への労働者の送り出しの制度そのものは、すでにある程度整っているというふうに考えています。しかし、若いインド人へのアプローチの仕方、PR を含めて、実際の送り出し、受け入れの活動は、まだ試行錯誤の段階なのだろうと評価をしています。インドの人口は14億を超えていまして、中国より多いと、世界でナンバーワンであるというふうに聞いています。非常に若い方が多い国です。潜在的に大きな送り出し能力があると考えています。うまく運用していくと、数年後には10万人以上の若いインド人が日本で働いている状況が知りません。とある日本の受け入れ機関の活動を紹介したいと思いますが、インドに進出しておりまして、特定技能の研修所を自分たちで作っています。で彼らは日本に行く前のインド人に、研修をして育てた上で日本に送り出す。で日本に送り出した後は日本で働いている間彼らがサポートをすると、そういうビジネスモデルを構築しています。こういった積極的な受け入れ機関が実績を残していくと、他の機関もそれに刺激されて、インドでの活動が活発化していくものと見ています。国境を越えて働きに行くということは、非常に大きな挑戦であります。リスクを伴います。技能実習、特定技能の外国人が、日本を選んでよかったと思えるような環境を作っていきたいと思います。もちろん高学歴のインド人も大歓迎ですので、よろしくお願いしたいと思います。時間が限られておりますので、私からはこの程度にさせていただいて、あとはご質問として受けさせていただこうと思います。ありがとうございました。ダンヤバード。
Next, I'd like to request Ms. Suman Kansotia, our Deputy Secretary, Japan Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, to speak.
Honorable Ambassador, Additional Secretary Shri Anurag Bhushan, my fellow panelists, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you all. My name is Suman Kansotia. I am working as Deputy Secretary Japan in Ministry of External Affairs in Delhi. Prior to my current assignment, which I joined last year, I was also posted in Tokyo for 2 terms. So I worked here for 6 years. I also learned Japanese language here. I'm also an interpreter for some high-level meetings whenever they happen. So I spent quite a lot of time in Japan, and I think I sort of understand the Japanese society, and I've interacted with a lot of stakeholders in Japan. Um, Coming to the topic of specified skilled workers and TITP, and in general, the human resource cooperation between our two countries. We had a very fruitful discussion today in our fourth JWG on specified skilled workers. We discussed about the policy framework, the ecosystems that we have in our two countries. We reviewed the SSW implementation, the challenges that we face, and the way forward, how to expand these frameworks even further so that we have more mutual understanding and more cooperation in this sector. As was already discussed by Honorable Ambassador and Additional Secretary, that we already have the context, we have the complementarities when it comes to demographic situation in our two countries. Whereas in India, we have a huge number of human resources that are skilled. We have one of the largest workforce, young people in India, and we can supply these human resources to various countries. On the other hand, in Japan, there is a challenge of the demographic challenge wherein the working age population is declining. So I think there's a perfect match between the two countries. And if you're able to leverage this opportunity, then I think the P2P links between our two countries would solidify further. We already have a very strong political strategic commitment between our two countries. And if we further strengthen on the human resource development cooperation, this would add to our long-term relationship sustainability. So in this context, we have SSW and TITP frameworks between our two countries. Now, looking at some of the challenges, the issues between in these frameworks, The numbers still remain limited, although we have to understand that these agreements between India and Japan, they're relatively new, particularly because over the past few years we were suffering because of COVID and there were all sorts of restrictions. So I think the most fundamental question we need to answer is how to make Indian human resources more attractive for Japan, and how to make Japan more attractive for Indian human resources. Um, to do that, the most important thing to do would be the awareness generation. While we understand that there's demand and supply, it's important that the two sides know about it, and there is good matching between the two sides. Um, as Honorable Additional Secretary, he mentioned that going forward, it would be important to have a consultative, a coordinated approach between our two sides so that we understand each other better. We understand the sectors where we can have this cooperation. We understand how geographically the human resource matching can happen. And of course, once we have this understanding of each other, we should look at the implementation issues and challenges. There was a mention of the testing centers. We need to open up new sectors, have more testing centers be more accessible to people. Also, the visa relaxation of visa regime would also go a long way in movement of human resources. Japanese language, which continues to be a big barrier, we need to work on that. Perhaps some rationalization of Japanese language requirement in India would also be helpful. The sharing of curriculum, understanding what all these trades involve, what are these sectors involved. So these are some of the issues that I think we need to work on very closely, and most importantly, involving all the stakeholders, not just the government, but the industry, the other sending organizations, receiving organizations, and all the stakeholders at the prefectural, the state level. It's important that everyone takes part in this process and make it more collaborative so that the human resource movement is more fruitful. Thank you.
すいません。これまでのお三方は政府の方で、ルールメーカーで、レギュレーターの方で、私の属するディスコは民間団体で、非営利の団体で、会員制で、実は日本全国の管理組合、今3600ほどありますが、1700組合が会員になっておって、その傘下に受け入れ企業が2万社ほどつながっています。じゃあ、実はそういう人たちについて何をやっているかということなんですが、実ははあくまでもルールテイカーです。ただ、このルールというのがですね、日本ではかなり重層的で複雑になっているのはインドと同じだと思います。今日は厚労省と法務省の方がおいでになっていますが、入管行政や労働行政のみならず、技能に即して技能検定の制度とかですね、他に農水省とか経産省とか国土交通省とか、たくさんの省庁がいろんな規制を抱えています。ディスコはですね、そういう規制をなるべく理解しながら、技能実習というと特定技能という2つの制度に着目して、水平横断的に理解して会員の方に助言をしたり相談に乗ったりする、そういう団体でございます。これが一つの大きなディスコの存在意義。もう一つの存在意義はですね、実はディスコは特に私の属している国際部は外国をいつも見ているということでございます。国際社会で人の流れがどういうふうな影響を受けているか。例えばウクライナでの戦争で今、労働力の動きがどう変わっているか。アメリカの財政出動で、労賃がどういう影響を受けて、それが人流にどういう影響を受けているか。 こういうことまでフォローしているということでございます。したがってですね、今、技能実習と特定技能を見たときに、ベトナムや中国の後はどこになるんだというのが日本の受け入れ企業の最大関心事ということで、うちの実行にもいろいろ相談が入っている。その中でもインドへの関心が高いということをお伝えしたいと思います。では、日印でこれから何をやっていけばいいのかということなんですけれども、先ほどの外務省の代表のお話でも、インド側の一つの狙いは ECR をどうやって多角化して日本に流し込んでいくかということだと思います。そして、レーバーモビリティアグリーメント、日本とはできているから既存のチャンネルがあるということですが、ここで私は3つお願いしたいのは、1つは、この ECR でまず話して、特定技能や技能実習の話をするときはですね、あくまでも中低技能労働者にフォーカスしてお話しされた方がいいと思います。ですから将来的にメディカルとか IT のエンジニア、SE とか、それはポテンシャルはすごく高いし、実際たくさん入っていると思いますが、実はその実績が大成功すぎて、日本人の間にはインド人は高度人材、技能実習とか特定技能じゃない高度人材、こういうステレオタイプが出来上がりつつあるということであります。したがって、インドは中低技能労働者も出してるんだ、ECR もいるんだということをですね、きちっと明確にオーディエンスをしっかり捉えながら出していくのが必要かと思います。私も以前、大使館は運営していましたけれども、大使館はなるべくいろんなものをてんこ盛りにしてですね、PR したがるんですけれども、投資とか技術とか、人材とかと全般やってしまうとですね、フォーカスがいないというのは一つアドバイス。2番目はですね、Reimagining Institutional Framework。同じことを日本でもやってるということをよく考えていただきたいと思います。政府の方はこれについてはお話できないと思いますが、民間人である私は重要な立場からお話しますと、来年の国会には新しい法律が出てくると思います。その中では新しい制度ができていて、今の技能実習と特定技能が混交した形で一体的、接続性の高いものとして現れてくるというのがはっきりしているわけですね。それのかすかなヒントが今月中には見えてくるかもしれないという状況なわけです。ただ、何が起きるかはっきり分かっていることはですね、一つはですね、管理組合に対する監督はかなり厳しくなります。したがって管理組合の整理統合といったものが可能性としてあるということなので、今、日本が制度改革しているから様子見というところもあるかもしれませんけれども、今のうちにいい管理組合をしっかり連携を深めておいた方がいいというのが1点。2点目はですね、もうレーバーモビリティアグリーメント存在するというふうにおっしゃってましたけれども、法律が変わると、これは改定しなきゃいけない。ということで、再交渉になってくるんで、そこにいろんなことを盛り込める余地があるということなので、それでぜひインド側にも日本の政府にもですね、いろんなスキームを実行しておいていただきたいなという気がします。3番目はですね、日本語の要件を強く、日本語9ヶ月前提というふうにおっしゃってましたけれども、かなり日本語の要件がハードルが高くなりますから、僕はよりインテンシブにやっていただいた方がいいのかなという気がします。したがって日本でもリイマジニングが進行しているということをよく考えしていただきたい。最後に具体的に実行のアクションなんですけど、実は10月に隣のアンシュルさん、NSDC と一緒に、インドの送り出し機関を日本にお迎えして、日本の管理組合とのマッチング、ジョブフェアを企画しているところでございます。東京と大阪で準備中です。そして来年、年明けにはですね、日本の管理組合の方で、インドをまだよくご存じない方をですね、数十人か連れてって、インド視察ツアーというのも今、検討してもらいまして、NSDC からいろいろアドバイスをいただいているところ のでございます。以上、とりあえず私。
Honorable Ambassador, Honorable Additional Secretary, my fellow panelists, and all the participants, good evening. My name is Anshul Singhal. I am from National Skill Development Corporation, which is a public-private partnership under the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship. We sometimes back we were discussing about Skill India. Now, this is one of the mission which the Ministry of Skill Development has been running since 2014 to skill Indian candidates so that they can be employed in the domestic jobs. Under the Skill India initiatives, we have been working in around 36 plus sectors, which include majorly from the manufacturing, automotive, construction, agriculture, healthcare, and so including the ITs and all these sectors has been very prominently the candidates have been trained and have been deployed so that they can start earning and they can get employable. Over the last few years, we have also created more expansion towards the other initiatives. So NSDC has been running India's largest scheme, which is called as Prime Minister Kaushal Vikas Yojana, PMKVY, under the ministry for this initiative. We have also been running the apprenticeship programs. We have been running the CSI sponsorships and the student paid programs where the skill development, the candidates are being trained. Then the technology came a very important factor in this. And then the Skill India Digital was launched along with a job aggregator platform, which is called as JobX. And over the last few years, a lot of focus is being given towards the international mobility. And that's where our Honorable Prime Minister has been positioning India as the skill capital of the world. And under that initiative, Skill India actually is getting transformed to Skill India International. And that is why in the latest budget announcement, 30 Skill India International centers are being launched, and they are being set up in different parts of India, which will dedicatedly focus on the international skilling, benchmarking of the curriculum, international level testing, and other mobility initiatives. Very specific to Japan, I think we all know that there are two MOCs which were signed. One was signed in 2017, which is TITP. And since 2018 onwards, NSDC has been the monitoring body for TITP. And while the moment the program started, after a couple of years, the COVID hit and the borders were closed. Effectively, TITP started picking up from last year, March, and in last 18 months, around 1,000 students interns have already been traveled to Japan in different industries. A majority of them are manufacturing, automotive, nursing care. So the service sector, which is India's strength, is actually picking up. There are 29 sending organizations, and NSDC is trying to expand those sending organizations. The numbers we are looking to expand further. Similarly, another MOC was signed for SSW in 2021, and the first test was launched as nursing care. And then slowly, the Indian people have also started learning the N4 level of Japanese language along with passing the SSW exams. And as per the data which we have like by June, around the 200 people, including the people who have converted from TITP to SSW, are already there in Japan and working. So, and then now we are talking about the agriculture test got started last year, and the new industries are also being opened. So this is how the expansion is looking at. One of the prime focus which NSDC has been looking at is to reduce the overall cost for the mobility. And that's where, since Japanese language is it's a key requirement for any candidate to work in Japan, we have been trying with support of Ministry of External Affairs, Ministry of Skill Development, we have been trying to set up more and more Japanese language schools. So one of the language school which has been set up in Gurgaon, we're dedicatedly focusing on the northeastern candidates, where the candidates comes to Delhi or Gurgaon, they study for 9 to 10 months of Japanese language as a full-time model in a hybrid model, including the physical plus online classes from the Japan. and the entire cost in terms of boarding and lodging, the hostel facilities is being supported by the government. Similar way, now we have also started running the similar Japanese language classes in Guwahati. And now slowly, we are trying to expand it to different other parts of India. So the overall framework is something which is one key requirement, which we would like to focus for SSW and TITP. The second focus, which we are currently working, is towards the seminars and promotional seminars, which is like in Japan. We just mentioned about the matchmaking seminars in Tokyo and Osaka, which is going to happen very soon. Then the delegation is expected to come to India in February, and then accordingly we will be conducting more such seminars in India, and the similar kind of seminars are also being planned in India, so that more and more candidates are being aware about this opportunity. So that is something which is a prime requirement. We have also started pushing some of the top Japanese recruitment companies to hire candidates from India, because and that's where we are trying to create more and more awareness with these companies, the individual discussions with them, making them comfortable to hire Indian people to get to know more about India. And if yes, it's a long road, but we are confident that this number will subsequently increase. Parallelly, I think the last and the important step is to create a pool of candidates in India who are readily available. We are looking from an employer's point of view also, where if they have to wait for any candidate to come to Japan for more than an year, that becomes one of the restricting factor. So if there is already a ready-made pool available, which already speaks Japanese, and they are ready to give their exams, that can reduce the overall time. And I think that is one of the key key initiative, which currently the ministry is working around, and we should be able to put up more efforts in the coming months. Thank you so much.
As we have limited time, we'd like to limit the session to one. So if you please would please introduce yourself before.
So, thank you. My question is from the Indian side. Yeah, my name is Rajesh Kushwaha. I am in the IT industry for here in Japan last 18 years. So my question is for the Indian side. Before there was a mention that why the Vietnam and Indonesia has a very good input from the influx of the migrants. But I think one of the reason is because the Japanese language, which is taught in their schools from the very beginning, and where in India we are trying to when someone pass out, and then I think that is the major factor. And even we put lot of hard effort, 9 months is very difficult. It is going to almost 1 year, and that 1 year I think it is very difficult for someone to put into without any money or without any remuneration. So my question is the Indian side or our ministry is thinking from that point of view? Of course, maybe first grade may be very difficult, but it would be very beneficial if you could focus on putting from 9th grade or maybe 11th grade, so that everyone has the interest instead of like 12th passing or graduation. So that's my question from India side. I don't know, maybe Suman-san or Anshul-san, who can, I don't know.
Yes, I think it's correct. And if we talk about the education system in India, the Japanese is not a very it's a common it's not as common as like German or French, which is being taught in the schools. There are very few very few schools who actually teach Japanese language. However, the school comes under a different ministry altogether. We have attended few meetings there, and they are thinking to promote few schools who may start the Japanese language. However, it may take some time to come to that stage. However, once the candidate passes the school and they go to the universities, there are some few universities in India who have started bringing a foreign language department. So, for example, I personally know like Assam Downtown University, who is recently starting a foreign language department, and they are starting with Japanese language. Similarly, there are a few other universities who are looking to start Japanese language, where the student can study along with their degrees. So that means by the time they passes their degree or diploma, they know some level of Japanese. It's a trend which we are trying to change, but it may take some time to reach to that level.
Sean? Okay, just to add to what you just said, I think you have raised a very important point, which I was also hinting in my speech, and other speakers are also focusing on that, which is the language is going to be the major obstruction. I won't say obstruction, but it's going to be the biggest challenge in terms of ramping up uh, this module. But thankfully, we have experience of that, you know, and we have worked with other partner countries to get over this kind of a challenge. So Mr. Anderson would be very happy to know that, for example, with Germany, state of Kerala has developed a triple win program. They have the same issue that their language program is 9 months for caregiver category, nursing category. So what they have done is to develop a very tight program where, you know, nurses are identified in Kerala, then they are trained as per the German standards in Kerala, and they are also given a language module. And then the rest of the training is given in Germany, in German to these, and then they are absorbed in the German hospital. The program has worked quite well, and I'm told about 500, 600 have already been absorbed in Germany. So we have example, and I'm quite sure that this is only a first or second year of SSW. We are still exploring possibilities of how we can do it. It's not an insurmountable job to language. We have already, the concept is already proven because we have trained 500 people in Japanese. So it's not a difficult answer. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And then, Auditorium-san. どうぞ。
まずインドの方が日本語が苦手かというのは非常に主観的な見方で、客観的な数字を見ると、特定技能の日本語試験の世界全体の合格率は 40%、インドは 44% で、アベレージは1割上回っています。したがって、インドネシアやベトナムも同じような。だから、そんなにインドの日本語能力を卑下する必要はないと思います。1カ国だけ、特に日本語が突出している国がありまして、中国は同じ漢字圏ということがあるから除外してもですね、それ実はミャンマーなんです。ミャンマーは 58%。でもミャンマーってインドの隣なんですね。それでミャンマーの北東部の人って、ミャンマーの人ってインドの北東部の人と非常に近いものがあるんで、だからインドの日本語能力のポテンシャルも十分高いんじゃないかと私は思うんで、変に卑下してインド人は日本語が苦手でという質問には私は違和感を感じました。
Respected Ambassador Sir, respected panel. Myself is Dr. Pramod Wahane, and I am from the veterinary field. I am the veterinary profession, and I am the first veterinarian living in Japan ever history of Japan. So I feel also very good. And since I am from the veterinary side, I have got the experience of the Indian farming and Indian cattle breeding farms. 30-year experience I have. And during my 5 years, I have studied this veterinary field in Japan. So in this area, from the SSW and TITP, there is a huge potential towards the exchange of the technology and training programs, and lot of the area we can do. When I came here, I studied this, visited veterinary science colleges, their professors. They also exchanged the thought that we can do very well, because a lot of the technology can bring to the Japan, and from India also a lot of the good technology can be bring here. So in that area, I don't know, Anshul sir are told that 36 fields are there, and from this the veterinary science and animal husbandry where it is stand, and from last 3 years also, 4 years also, I am saying to the embassy also, they are also saying that we will support. But now this area under the TITP program and SSW program, considering this huge potential in this area, so we should promote this veterinary science field and animal husbandry field in this area. Because Anurag sir also told that a lot of the IIMs and IT has come and engineering fields also come. But this area, veterinary science and animal husbandry, this area we should promote through the NSDC, TITP program and SSW program. This is my request, and I wanted to know from Anshul sir and Anurag sir how they feel and how we should go like.
Okay. So I think in the TITP or the SSW program, I think this field is still not covered. I think this is a decision from Japan side to see maybe in future they may like to add this field. I'm not sure if there is any special visa category available separately, which is not in TITP or SSW, maybe some other visa category. But maybe in any upcoming meetings, if it happens, we can pass on this feedback to include these particular sectors.
Okay. This is we run. Okay.
My name is Emil Lai. I'm one of the SOs from India. I got the NSDC license. I wanted to ask, recently I read in some sort of a magazine or newspaper that NSDC formed an alliance with Fourth Valley. It's one Japanese small company. It's a placement company. From a Japanese standpoint of view, that means you have authorized that company to be the representative of India. I don't think that's a good impression, because now you're narrowing it to one small Japanese company, whereas there's like 3,000 kumiai. Kumiais are all over Japan, whereas you created an impression that Fourth Valley is the one you have to look into when you approach all of these skill sets. Do you have a comment on that?
I think I'm not sure about this impression, how this impression has gone, but it's a kind of a B2B partnership, and Fourth Valley is not exclusively working with NSDC. It is one of the partners which NSDC has it, like any other sending organization, including yours. At the same time, it is not only with Fourth Valley, with NSDC International has been working, but there are few other companies also. And all these companies are generally the recruitment companies in Japan who are basically hiring high-skilled professionals and the SSW workers for their clients. So the front face for Fourth Valley, for their clients, always remains with Fourth Valley, because that's the relationship between the two companies. NSDC is more creating a supply for these candidates, for these companies, which could be even which can be used by anybody. So in fact, a lot of other companies, when the students are being trained, a lot of other companies has also been hiring those students apart from Fourth Valley. So, but since the feedback has come, maybe we will be more, I will say we will also instruct Fourth Valley to communicate an appropriate message on that. So we'll make those, we'll take that corrective actions if needed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singer. And I'd like to make that as the last question. And if you have any further questions, you can ask the panelists after in this networking session. We have tea ready for you in the foyer. So over the tea, you can ask questions to the panelists and also to the joint secretary. So with this, I would like to conclude the India-Japan Skills Connective Reimagining Institutional Framework. And thank you very much for your participation today. And on your way out, please do not forget to return the receiver to the reception. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.